I say that you'll remember. Dancing in September. Well, I mean, technically it's still August, but who's keeping track, right? Not me, apparently. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance. I, of course, am Whatthefnu, and you're stuck with just me again for this episode, but that's okay, because I've got a special little segment just for you guys today. Today we're going to be fighting not just one, but two bosses over the course of the episode, for a double-length feature. Hooray! This guy's been a little troll in some of my practice runs. Like, he shot me from completely far away, like, right off screen where I couldn't see him. I see the boss door down there, by the way. I'm just gonna go up here for a hot second so that I can find some more items. And also so I can hopefully avoid getting poisoned. That's a neat little layout there, too, because you go down to the bottom platform and you're like, oh, I'm safe down here. Oh, crap, I forgot about the poison. If we keep bringing ourselves around here, eventually we're going to discover that there's more decorations for our room. I haven't actually gone back to that room. I'm thinking I'm going to take care of that near the end game. There's a gold trinket in here. But there's an entire other side to this room. Now, there is a theme to Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, and I'm not going to go too much into it now because it's technically story spoilers, but this game is very big on the idea of duality. Case in point, we've got the gold chandelier, the gold trinket that we found on the other side, now the silver trinket as well. Did you drop a gold trinket or silver trinket into the river? I'd explain that reference, but it would take entirely too long. You'll notice something about the hit effects there. Every single segment of that bone dragon technically counts as part of its body, but not necessarily a hitbox that you can deal damage to. It's one of those little interesting programming quirks. Alright, are y'all ready for a boss fight? I'm not really. This guy's a pain in the ass. Welcome everybody to the Devil. Not like the devil. Like, the greatest evil in this series is always going to be Dracula himself, but we are encountering a devil in this room. Weird, I thought he'd be more red. I guess that's part of the joke, though. If you're wondering about the whole fire thing, that does not play into his elemental weaknesses. He's not, like, weak to ice or anything like that. He is a bit of a slippery motherfucker, though, so you want to keep an eye on... Yeah, like that. Speaking of weird hitboxes, he can hit you behind him, he moves in very erratic ways, and he can also curse you, which makes you move much more slowly for a little while, which means you gotta be way more careful than normal. But sometimes he'll land on the ground and just give you some free hits like that, as long as you watch out for that swipe he can do. Which apparently I'm not. I'm saving up my MP here, I don't really want to waste too much of it right now. Well, not this time. Who says I can't learn my lesson? He's also got a lot of health, too. I forget the exact amount off the top of my head. The mate will put it in the video for you. But considering the strength that I've got right now, this is actually kind of a tricky battle. How's about we drop some holy water on him? That's a good, like, let me actually count the hit. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 hits, all worth 22 points each. Damn, dude. That's almost 200 damage off of just one charge there. That's way better than I'm doing with my weapon right now. We're gonna get some major upgrades to the whip in this episode if I don't die here. Let's attack this process one step at a time, right? Don't count your devils before they're released from hell. Or something along those lines. Don't count your cockatrices before they're hatched. I guess that fits a little better. So right here, we get the night goggles for that, which is an upgrade that's also an equipment item. You can leave this on Juste, and he'll gain a passive ability. Now, what's the ability? That if I can differentiate between the map and the equip screen. Been playing this game for how long and I still can't do that? Leather cap. I believe this counts as goods. Yes, it does. So, You'll actually notice in my inventory screen here, you can have only one thing attached to the body, one good. You can have as many goods as you like, but you can only have one body, one hands, one head. So if I try to equip another pair of gloves, let's see if I can find something here. No, that counts as goods. So, all right, this'll. We'll talk about it more later when we get to it. There's another item I know shows that off that we'll potentially be getting in this episode. But yeah, once you get too much equipment... They didn't want you equipping more than one particular piece of equipment, which is interesting. Like, I haven't encountered any gloves or helmets or anything that are particularly strong. Maybe that was a balancing issue to some degree. But yes, now we have the night goggles, which... as they say, gives the user the ability to see in the dark to a certain degree. You can see in the dark, but only somewhat. You're not quite owl-visioned, but it's sort of like those abilities, like, you're only somewhat resistant to poison. It's like, why can't I be completely resistant to poison? Why are you wasting my time with this half-assed nonsense? That is one trippy background, by the way. I just started really looking at those clouds. My god, the wind must really be blowing. Anyways. Alright, this enemy right here, the Ruler's Sword. He inflicts you with Curse, just like the Devil does. He's got all these Orbiters. We've seen enemies like this before, but he's not too much of a problem, because Holy Water is really powerful. Sorry I took so much damage there, I just really want... I had that wind-up planned out in my head, like introducing the enemy, and the resolution of the situation. Didn't quite work out in my favor though, did it? One piece of advice I want to give to everybody out there who wants to start Let's Playing, just try not to plan things in advance. You will plan, you will strategize, you will do all kinds of practice runs, and it's always going to blow up in your face in the end, because that's just how improv works. That's the whole point of Let's Plays, is they're spontaneous. You don't know what's going to happen 100%. That's also why I think the idea of, oh, here's a good example of this. So we try to equip another head item, and it takes off our last one. So... just gonna equip our gloves again there. And, uh-oh. I think the game just crashed. Well, speaking of spontaneity... Oh, no, for some reason I just navigated away from the game. Okay, well, that was a bit of a heart attack. I was like, no, my progress. Yeah, just be yourself when it comes to this kind of thing. Try to plan, like, you can get away with some things, like my intros I always have planned out. My, certain things I want to talk about are always planned out. Like, I know what upgrades I'm going to get, and I know roughly how I'm going to explain them to people. Like this item right here. Hint card number 2. Now, wait a second. We haven't found hint card number 1, which is interesting. I'm going to try to find that later. The eyes of the goddess statue point to a secret passage. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind. But who is the goddess? Like, is this something we've seen before? Or is it something we've yet to see? Mystery, mystery. And what's in this particular secret passage that's so important that you had to point it out to me? Well, I'll explain that chaos ring in a bit, by the way. The only other game I've seen do something like this is Aria of Sorrow. And when I first found that card, I was like, wait a second, the last time they had to explain something like this, it was because it was integral to one of the secret endings of the game. Like, on how to get the best ending in the game. And I believe this is something similar because of what it ends up leading you to. But I'm not going to say what that is at the moment because, hey, why spoil the surprise? Now, that item we just got, I'm going to replace my night goggles with this because this counts as goods, but this is the Chaos Ring, which increases the strength of holy water. Let me just let that sink in for you. It increases the strength of holy water. If it wasn't Doomsday already for this castle, it is now. That is a fantastic upgrade. I don't know what they were thinking, giving you that right after the part of the game where you'd find the wind book, and therefore get what is... There are some items I like better in certain situations. One of them we're actually going to be coming up to here in a second. But I just love the idea of that upgrade. It's like, now you're going to make this, like, essentially a screen clear even more powerful. And even if it doesn't immediately kill what it touches, it takes out a huge chunk of their health. And you're just going to make it even stronger? My goodness. That's one thing that's a huge point of contention in games like this, Metroidvanias, is the idea of power creep. Like, you've already got... Metroid doesn't have the RPG elements. It just has straight upgrades on weapons, like you get your split shot, then you get the plasma shot, you can shoot through walls, now you can freeze enemies. But none of these stack on top of each other. Like, none of them are just a straight strength... The variables are controlled, is what I'm trying to say. You know exactly how strong the player is going to be at any given point. Once you start introducing things like equipment and leveling up, though, there are a ton of variables to take into account. Alright, this right here. So those things are going to come down and try to crush you. This is one of the few occasions in this game where I know you have to use the dash to go forward. And for figuring that out, not only do they give you 250 bucks, but they also give you a blue stone. Blue stone adds ice attacks to your whip, which, surprise, surprise, all of the enemies in this area are actually weak to, including these fishmen. Water-based enemies are always getting screwed. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, slime enemies. Let's talk about those guys for a second. Like, the chemical composition of their body is incredibly malleable. The whole point of a slime creature is they can transform. They can take all of these different bodily structures and still have tensile strength to them. They can grab things, eat them using any part of their body. They can morph it to be hard, to hold on to something. All kinds of things, and you gotta think their whole body has gotta be incredibly malleable, incredibly, what's the word I'm looking for? So think about their elemental weaknesses for a second, like lightning. Okay, they're kind of liquid-based. They would conduct electricity very well. I'm going in the wrong direction. I shouldn't be taking on that boss right now. You'll understand why in a second. Plus, it'll give me time to talk about this. They conduct lightning really well. Fire burns them better because they're essentially like jelly. They're not exactly flammable, but it chars them, it burns them. It takes away their ability to be as flexible as they were before. But if you think about it, a slime's greatest weakness would be water. Because their chemical structure is so loose to begin with, if you put them inside like a tank of water, they just dissolve. They'd break apart into pieces. It's kind of it's kind of a terrifying thought, actually, just watching this living organism turn to mush in a pool. Gotta wonder how those things react to the rain. What I'm saying is water-based creatures are always getting screwed. They're kind of on the bottom tier, which is why I'm always surprised that games tend to start off in a forest. You'd think some of the easiest enemies to deal with would be water-based ones, but I guess you gotta build yourself up to the swimming power-up. Ah, come on! I knew that thing was coming, too. That's the worst part. I can't dash, either. I guess that makes sense, considering the curse. So, yeah, here's the other item I was referring to before. The one I was actually thinking of when, like, okay, I'll find more items later to show off this concept. These are the hard gloves, which are pretty much straight upgrade from our leather ones. We're getting pretty good in defense, like almost breaking 100 there, which for this point in the game is not that bad at all. Still only taking 1 damage from the bats. I love games that actually... they just let you take 0 damage from something. Because you face weaker... this would have been a perfect place to show it off, too, because you insist on having these bats here. What if I'm just so defensive that I'm taking 0 damage from them? That would have been a really cool moment. It's like, hey, look how far you've come. Alright, look up there. A woman-like figure that's been immortalized in statue form. Could it be? Let's take a quick trip off to the side here. Ah, boomerang armor. Whatever's down this path, they certainly didn't want me to find it very easily, but that's okay, because we have one of my other favorite combinations, and why I think the Wind Book is so great. So this is Wind Cross. Against only one enemy, or in like boss fights or something, that's a lot of damage. It's actually more damage than the Holy Water gives you, but it's not covering the entire screen, so just going from place to place, you might be better with the water. Now, this is a pretty big wall. Most walls aren't like this. If you go to the other side of the room, it doesn't let the camera scroll that far, so automatically, if you've played a lot of games, you're curious, but I can't go through, unless I go where the goddess was looking. And what do we find on the other side but the nail of Vlad? You heard that right. The nail of Vlad. One of Dracula's bodily remains increases strength just from holding it. And now you know what the subplot is here. It's like, oh, that's what I'm looking for here. That's the secret. Dracula's remains are hidden all throughout this castle, and it looks like our job, the subplot, or at least if we want to get the best ending, it seems, is to find all of the pieces. Eventually, anyway. First, we gotta figure out what's wrong with Maxim, but that's a fight for another time, because now I gotta trek my way all the way back to that boss door now that I've got all these upgrades. So see you guys in a second. Alright, that wasn't that long, all things considered. Alright. So, through this door, we will find our next boss, as I promised in the beginning. 2 for the price of 1 this episode. This is the giant merman. And guess what he's weak to? He's resistant to fire, but he just happens to be weak to the whip upgrade we just got. I just remembered that this probably isn't the best idea, wasting all of my MP right now, just trying to burst him down, because one of his other abilities is he can actually summon some of his buddies. And he'll, like, command them, too. He's like an army general here. He'll, like, synchronize their fire against you. He'll try and have them attack you in rhythm. He's a pretty tricky enemy. However, if you grab all of the upgrades like I did, he's not that difficult. See if I can do this. Yeah! Nice shot. Good, great, outstanding, amazing. Finally got myself one of those little messages there that I talked about. And for our troubles, we find ourselves a life max up, a heart max up, and through this door, if I'm remembering this correctly, we'll find something else incredible. Oh yeah, everybody. Castlevania staple right here. We have officially made it to the clock tower. Should I end the episode off here? I'm closing up on... Nah, I'll give you a bit of a sneak peek at what this area is like, if you haven't seen the game before. Just a little taste to leave you off on. Got some abstract art off in the background there. That is such a cool little visual effect, like the blood trickling out from the frame. And all of those eyes just staring at you. This is one of my favorite things about Castlevania, is all the creepy atmosphere and imagery. And it's creative, too. Just little things like that that keep you hooked on the idea that, yes, this is a horrifying world full of terrible, dreadful things that you probably wouldn't want to be a part of, given the choice. Find ourselves a heart max up for that. And that's actually gonna... I think that's gonna bring us to the end of this episode, now that you see what we're dealing with here. So, next time on Team Pizza Plays Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, we will continue our journey into one of the most iconic places in any Castlevania game, and hopefully find something else normally associated with these areas. Until then, I'm Whatthefnu. Later, everybody.